In this video, I'm building 4 massive LEGO theme parks, including a variety of roller coasters, water slides, games, and so much more. I'll be creating over 40 different rides, with each theme park getting more intense and dangerous as the video goes on. Let the building begin. For our first theme park, let's build a more traditional one, similar to Six Flags Magic Mountain. I'll start by recreating the entrance to the park by placing down these tiles and building 4 ticket stalls. These employee minifigures will be used to sell tickets to the guests, who can enter through these turnstiles. Now let's make the entrance feel a little less empty. Let's build a sign to place on top of the ticket stalls. We'll call it Bricktopia. With the entrance complete, we can fully fence in the theme park. Before starting our first roller coaster, let's make a courtyard area with a fountain, a couple benches and trees, and a hot dog stand for all the Glizzly Gobblers in the park. It's time to build a huge roller coaster in this open spot. These track pieces come in a bunch of different shapes and sizes, which will let us make twists and turns. I'm going to use the same yellow and green colors of this ride at Six Flags. Now I can start by making a tall lift to take the cars up. I want it to go really high for maximum speed. Then I'm going to use these loop pieces to create a spiral going down, or as my younger self would say,
it goes around into loops and stuff.
Let's make sure the spirals work. And now we can just finish connecting the coaster up to the beginning, and we have our first ride finished. But to make it even cooler, we're going to motorize it. We can use these pieces connected together to guide the cars up. Then we can use the motor connected to a battery pack and attach a gear to it. And after turning it on, it works. Now we can just sit and watch the cars go endlessly without even touching them. With the first ride finished, it's time to add a roller coaster that has a full loop. I bought the loop coaster set and assembled all 3,000 plus pieces. Now let's place it down at the back of the park. There's a piece to spin on the side which pulls the cars to the top, and then gravity does the rest. Let's add a motor to this ride as well so that there's no need to hand crank it. And now the ride can go entirely on its own, which is pretty cool. The park's off to a great start with 2 fully functional roller coasters, so now it's on to the next area. Six Flags has a water park which was unfortunately closed for the winter. I was still able to see what some of the water slides look like for inspiration for my own park. I'm going to build up a few different water slides for the park, but first I need to make the big set of stairs that go up to the slides, similar to the ones they have at Six Flags. With the staircase finished and providing the elevation we need, I can start working on building the water slides. The first slide I'm going to build is just a straight drop down, similar to this slide, although not nearly as steep. The minifigures do definitely catch some speed going down though. The next thing to do is build the platform up higher to fit the next 2 water slides. The first one is going to wrap around the lower slide, and then the last one will do some twirls all the way to the bottom. We obviously can't have the water slides ending in grass, so I'm going to build a big pool for people to slide into and a surrounding beach area for figures to lounge on. I'll add these different blue studs to create a water effect, and now riders can safely land in the pool below. Except for this slide. I'm going to add this bungalow for figures to change in, and then place down these palm trees for shade, some lounge chairs around the pool, and a few tiki torches to really top it off. The last thing to add is the entrance, and the water slide area is finished. It honestly turned out way cooler than I thought it would. The next ride to build for the park is a classic wooden roller coaster. LEGO conveniently made this set a few years ago, and it's appropriately named Roller Coaster. I built up all 4,000 pieces and placed the ride down in the park. This roller coaster, like the last one, can also be motorized. And after hooking up the motor, we have a third functioning roller coaster. It's really cool to see all the rides running at the same time, although it's a bit loud. Now it's time to fill in all that space in the middle of the park. For the next ride, let's add a boat swing, which is a common ride at a lot of theme parks, and one Six Flags did have. So instead of doing a pirate ship, I'm going to make the boat swing using this LEGO Viking ship, which I think will look a lot cooler. I just need to make a few modifications in order to turn it into a ride. I built these columns that'll support the weight of the ship. Then I need to make bases to attach the columns to. After tweaking with the supports for a bit, I was able to get it stable and swingable. You can actually start it pretty high up, and it holds up really well. Then I finished it off with a set of stairs leading up to the ride and a path connecting to it. A sweet looking ride for sure. And that's 5 rides down. A lot of theme parks have bumper cars, so I'm going to build one as well. I'll start by creating my own custom bumper cars coming in blue, red, green, and yellow. Now I'm going to make a platform with a beam in the middle for them to move around on, similar to the one at Six Flags. Then I'll build up supports on the outside corners and a fence to keep the cars from going out. They move around really smoothly, which makes bumping into each other that much easier. I built this roof to go over the top, which makes it a little dark inside, so I'm going to use these LED lights to make it pop. Alright, that actually looks really nice and totally completes the bumper cars. Most theme parks have an area with a bunch of carnival games, which are an easy way to lose a lot of money. I tried out a few games at Six Flags and it didn't go so well. The first game I'm gonna make is this one where you try to toss a ball into a bucket. Let's just say I didn't win anything. Now I'm gonna place it down and hopefully people can have better luck getting into the bucket than I did. The next game I'm gonna make is one where you try to knock over these metal cans with a small beanbag. All those years of playing baseball didn't do me any good, although I did knock over a couple. I built a shelf and stacked the cans on top of it, and people can now try and knock them over. The final game is the best one because you win no matter what. You have to fish out a duck from the water and the number on it determines your prize. I made the game by building a pool of water and adding ducks to it, so now people can fish them out and win something for themselves. Then I completed the area with a prize rack with teddy bears, action figures, crossbows, and much more. Something a theme park can't do without are the amenities like food stands, drink stands, and of course bathrooms. To start, I'm gonna make a burger stand. I'll add in a grill for the cook and a soda machine. I'm also making it in the shape of a burger, which looks similar to the burger stand in Roller Coaster Tycoon. Next up are the bathrooms, which are definitely necessary with rides like these. I designed a couple small toilets and added walls between them and doors to the front. Then I finished the inside of the bathroom by adding in the sink. For the roof, I put a toilet on top so people will 100% know what it is. The final building is this drink stand in the shape of a cup, also like the one in Roller Coaster Tycoon. I added these clear brick pieces to the top to make it look like ice, and then I made a bench next to it for people to sit at. Now it's time to open the park and fill it with guests and workers. I placed a couple lifeguards on the water slides and filled out the beach area with people. Then I added guests into the lines for rides and put down the mascots for the park. We'll also need janitors in the park that will help keep it clean, and of course, technicians to repair any of the rides that break down. Like this. To really brighten up the park, let's install some lights on the boat swing and around the exterior. Now that really tops off the first of the 4 theme parks we're building in this video. I really want to make a splash for the second park, so let's work on building a huge water park on these 20 Lego base plates. It will even have real water in it. And for inspiration for my water park, I went to Six Flags Hurricane Harbor. Rex here will build 4 ticket stalls, and then we can add minifigures inside to sell tickets to all the park guests. And now Chad can buy a ticket to the park. I'll add a green roof with some plants for a tiki vibe. I built a couple palm trees that we can place down to provide Chad some shade and line. After making some final touches, we'll add the sign to the park. Brick and slide seems pretty fitting. With the sign added, our park entrance is ready for guests. And after fencing the park in, we can start building our first slide. We'll use these slide pieces to create a straight drop down. I'm basing this off of the race slides at the water park, which unfortunately were closed down. Our trial tests seem to be pretty successful, so let's build up 5 different slides for guests to race each other on. And obviously, guests need a way to get up to the slides, so we built a staircase to go to the top. Now we need to make a pool so they can safely land in the water, and not the grass. After filling it up with water, it's time for the first race to commence. Alright, the first slide works really well. All that's left is to add a changing room for Chad to change into his swim trunks. With the first slides of the water park complete, it's time to move on to the next water slide area. And we still have tons of slides to build, like a volcano water slide later in the video. This whole area will become one giant beach pool. Our first slide in this area is connected to the race slides and was inspired by the slides we saw at the water park. Chad easily passes the safety test. And for the next slides, we built a pillar with stairs wrapping around it so guests can reach them. They had stairs like this all over the water park to be able to get up to the slides. Now we can connect one of the slides to it. And this one once again passes the safety test. We built up the pillar a bit more to attach the final slide for this area, the corkscrew. Wow! I have a feeling this one would be a lot of fun to ride. Then I constructed this rope bridge in order for guests to get to the slide. It's definitely perfectly safe. With the 3 slides built for this area, it's time to make the pool, which will be surrounded by sand. Now, after adding all the water into the pool, Chad can safely ride each of the slides. And to spruce up the area a bit, I added some lounge chairs, palm trees, and most importantly, Glizzy Island, which Chad will obviously visit. I mean, I did the same thing on my trip to the water park. With all the extras added, the pool turned out looking really cool, and the palm trees and tiki torches really give it that water park vibe. And with these slides complete, let's build the main fountain area to connect the 2 parts of the park. We'll add a fancy fountain right in the middle and fill it with water, as well as some lost items from guests. And then we can finish this area off with a couple of palm trees. And now we're ready to build on this side of the park. How about we build a kids area? The entrance to Happy Funland will be this ape skull. We'll build up stone and surround it to form a big cove for the kids area. The skull embedded in the rocks looks really cool and fits in well for Happy Funland. The entrance in the back leads you through the mouth of the skull and lets you slide down into the kids area. I'll build up a sandy shore to hold in the water for the cove. In the left corner, let's build a small pool area with a slide going down. I'll also add a water cannon so kids can blast the others coming down the slide. Now let's fill in the rest of the area with water. At most water parks, the kids area has a big structure with slides to play on. So I made this custom pirate ship to serve that purpose. It has 3 slides attached to it, and plenty of space to run around. And if you get to the top of the mast, the views are to die for. How about we make another play structure with slides in this corner? This one has 2 slides that are a bit bigger than the pirate ships. To get to the top slide, you'll have to get across the chain bridge. Let's also make a couple of the water spouts that are commonly found, which spin around and shoot water everywhere. We also definitely can't forget to add the giant tipping buckets every water park has. Now let's add in all our blue studs to finish off the water. I'll also make one important upgrade to the water cannon. And with that, Happy Funland area is complete. It's pretty impressive how many slides we were able to fit in here, and I really like how the whole area turned out. Now it's time to focus our attention to the big empty spot in the middle. Let's construct a massive mountain that will hold up the longest slide in the park. This mountain literally took 2 days to complete. It turned out looking really epic and is way bigger than I anticipated. The stairs are built into the mountainside and leads guests up to the top, which is also a volcano. We installed lights inside to make the lava glow. And smoke actually comes out of it like a real volcano. Just don't get too close to the edge. Now we can add the slide onto the mountain, mainly using these custom slide pieces. After a lot of modifications, the moment of truth. Now we just need to add a pool at the end for Chad to land in. By using some saran wrap, we can fill up the pool with actual water. It really is a real water park now, and Chad can just chill and float in the water. The slide turned out looking awesome built into the mountain like that. Now how about we build a lazy river that surrounds the mountain? They're at nearly every water park. Now that we surrounded the entire mountain with a river, we need to build a bridge to go over it, so there aren't any accidents. The final step is to add all the blue studs into the river, and now it's complete. Chad can float along and enjoy the water, and other guests can safely cross the river to the mountain slide, which really helps fill out the park. And because it's so large, let's build some tube slides that start at the top of the mountain. It's pretty common to see tube slides at most water parks. Let's construct the first slide so that it connects up with the lazy river, and it seems to work well. We'll also make another tube slide, but this one will end in a big pool down below, which we'll need to build. Similar to the mountain slide, this pool will also contain real water. Chad can once again relax in a nice big pool. And since we have this huge pool now, let's make a giant raft slide, which was inspired by the one at Hurricane Harbor. Time to test it out. This thing catches some serious speed. It honestly might be my favorite slide in the park. Water parks offer different amenities like food, drinks, and bathrooms. So we'll make a few of those. Let's start with a bathroom. We can place down a couple toilets and a sink. And after building up the rest of the walls, the bathroom is ready for use. Let's build a roof to go on top and a giant toilet to inform guests on where to go. For food, let's make a burger stand in the shape of a giant burger. I think it looks pretty cool. We can also build a taco stand with a giant taco on top, which can even spin around. The final concession stand is in the shape of a giant drink. They all turned out looking really good and will offer guests a nice variety of options. After making the final touches to the park, let's place down all the guests around the park, and of course, the mascots. Although the shark mascot might terrify guests a bit. Janitors will help keep the park clean, and the maintenance crew will help keep the slides in operation. And we can't forget to add security guards as well. Chad can now enjoy all the rides throughout the park, which are a lot safer and less terrifying than the rides we'll be building in the next theme park. Let's start by fencing in the base plates with these black fence pieces, and now we have a proper plot of land to start building our theme park on. Every theme park needs an entrance, and for Fright Fest and Horror Nights, they decorate them to look extra scary. So let's start by building up the entrance. We'll use these bendy pieces which can be used to make circles in Lego, and also allows us to make this curved staircase which we'll copy on both sides. We can connect the two staircases by making this platform, and then add some torches in the front of the steps. I want to fill in the front with a witch's cauldron, which I think turned out looking pretty nice. Let's pour these neon green studs in the cauldron and add some ingredients like a spider, scorpion, and minion's eye. Now we have a full-on evil witch's cauldron. With that added, we can begin work on a big base to hold the 2 ticket stalls for entrance into the park. I added fence pieces with some black spikes to really give it that spooky feeling, and then I constructed the 2 ticket stalls. I based them off a mausoleum, which is basically a giant grave, so it's pretty fitting. Let's place the 2 stalls down. And now we can add this zombie minifigure and Frankenstein minifigure to the stalls to sell tickets to park guests. We'll finish off the area by adding turnstiles, which are found at basically any theme park. Now guests can purchase a ticket to the park and make their way inside. The entrance turned out looking really cool and extra haunted. And of course, it wouldn't be an official theme park without a name and a big sign. I think Terrorland is the perfect name. Let's move on to the next area behind the entrance. I started by building up a base to house a graveyard because, let's be honest, it doesn't get much more haunted than that. I'll add some grass and then start fencing in the area, and we'll get to that big pit in a minute. I added a couple open graves with skeletons inside and filled it with brown studs to look like dug up dirt, as well as a couple of shovels. Then I made some gravestones and placed them throughout the graveyard, and also added this guardian. I finished off the ground by placing stone paths that will lead to the various attractions in the park. In the scary pit in the center, I added red and white studs as well as a skeleton. And on top of the pit, we'll add this giant friendly looking tree which sits perfectly on top of the pit. Just make sure not to get too close to it when you enter the park. After making some final touches, the graveyard is now complete, and Terrorland is off to a great start. For the first big attraction, I want to make a scary corn maze. We'll start by making a dirt outline of the maze, and then Farmer John can help plant the actual corn. Then we'll use this giant container of corn to fill out the rest of the maze. The maze turned out looking even better than I expected, and now guests can really get into the thick of it. I finished the maze off by adding a few scary surprises in the maze for those that take the wrong turn. Just be sure not to run into the evil clown. For the next area, let's make a small pumpkin patch at the end of the corn maze. We'll add this big pumpkin, which was a gift with purchase set that I got this month. It even lights up when you press down on the stem. Around the big pumpkin, we'll place smaller pumpkins down for guests to pick out. And after adding in the vines, it really does look like a real pumpkin patch. I added a sign at the entrance, and now guests can come grab their favorite pumpkins. Just make sure to watch out for the tractor ride. For the next attraction, let's make an area dedicated to evil, fun clowns. This section will be appropriately named Funland, which was inspired by one of the levels of the backrooms. The first attraction I made is this big tower launch ride, which is equipped with big spears for safety on the front and has this nice looking clown face, which I took from this really cool Lego Hidden Side set. And by pulling this pin, guests can be launched in the air at insane velocities. The next ride is slightly more tame. It's like one of those spinny rides at amusement parks or fairs, except you'd be strapped in by your head. Let's just say these are people that aren't subscribed. By spinning this crank here, the guests go around in circles at breakneck speed. The next attraction is one where someone is strapped into the middle of a circle and knives are thrown at them. By adding a Lego motor, we can fully automate this one. And unfortunately, John Pork has to be the unlucky one in the middle. I also want to make one of those dunk tank games that you see at carnivals. This mechanism here will allow the board to drop. Now we can fill it with blue studs to represent water, and we might as well throw a shark in there while we're at it. These basketballs will be what guests use to try to hit the target. I also made the hammer game you see at theme parks, although you've got to be pretty strong to get this one to the top. We'll finish tiling off Funland with these black and white tiles, and then make one last game of apple bobbing, where guests can come up with apples or other fun surprises. Now Funland is complete with plenty of clowns and some really fun attractions for the guests. Next, let's make a haunted house in this area like the ones you'd find at Fright Fest or Horror Nights. We can start by plotting out the area where the house will be built and then constructing the base of the haunted house, which we can fill up with these bricks to support the floor. I wanted to go with something that looked old and haunted, so I came up with this design for the house. I also built a trapdoor on the first floor that can swallow up unsuspecting guests. I finished building the walls of the first floor, the front porch outside, and also added a spiral staircase leading up to the second floor. I added some maps on the walls for decoration, as well as some shields above and to the sides of the fireplace, which also lights up. There's also a hidden door in this prison cell that opens up to a zombie inside. Now we can fill up the rest of the living room with a clock, a chair by the fireplace, and a big sofa. A vampire occupies the chair, but a bigger concern is getting crushed by a falling chandelier. With the living room complete, we can fill out the kitchen with some cabinets, a sink, and an old stove. And the sink is of course filled with blood and bones. There's also a small kitchen table in the corner and a killer zombie next to it. The first floor is complete, so now onto the second floor, which contains a few rooms. One with a small bed and skeleton on it, and the main room which has a skeleton chair, an evil plant, and a monster bed that can eat guests alive. And we can't forget the trapdoor. There's also a hidden room behind this bookshelf that I made, which houses a killer werewolf. And the final room is a torture room, where this minion was stretched a bit too far. And with that, the second floor is complete. Now all that's left to do is add a roof, and the haunted mansion is finished. It turned out looking really awesome, and it's definitely haunted. Terrorland is really starting to fill out now. For the final big attraction, I want to make a giant roller coaster like you'd see at Six Flags. We'll start by making this swamp that the ride will go around with giant sea monster tentacles coming out of it. And then we can use these blue and green studs to mimic murky swamp water. Now we can use these different types of roller coaster tracks to build up a custom roller coaster. After a ton of experimenting, I was finally able to come up with a design that looked cool and fit in with the space we had left. It has this steep drop that was made by connecting tracks side by side, and the ride seems to be working really well. But it wouldn't be a real roller coaster unless it moves on its own. So let's use this chain to motorize the ride. Now we have a true coaster that works flawlessly, and I really wish I could shrink down and ride it. I even added a skull for the carts to travel through, some reapers at the top of the ride, and a giant evil hand that looks like it's reaching out to grab the carts as they speed by. For the final area, let's add a couple of food stands starting with the popcorn stand, which is in the shape of a giant popcorn bucket. I'll also add in this juice stand, which actually comes from a Hidden Side set. It looked too cool to not include in the theme park. Then I finished the area off by adding a few benches and a table for people to enjoy their food at. All that's left to add for this theme park are the guests and the rest of the monsters. And if this theme park wasn't scary enough, the last one we're going to build will be the most dangerous of them all. Let's start by closing in the base plates with these black fence pieces and building an entrance where park guests can enter at their own risk. I started by tiling the front middle area to create a foundation for a pair of ticket stalls, just like you'd see at a normal theme park. Except these ones have a warning sign. I'll place down the stalls and grab a couple minifigures to add inside as park employees. That way, guests can purchase tickets to get inside. After building a roof to place on top, it's time to figure out a name for the park. How about Peril Park? That has a nice ring to it. Let's place it on top. Before guests can even get to the first ride, they have to make it past the spinning blade I built that swings from side to side. Looks like Peril Park is already living up to its name. I also built a fountain for the entrance and filled it with acid instead of water. Let's hope guests don't get too close to it though. I'll add the finishing touches like a couple benches, lamps, and trash cans. Now the entrance to the park is fully complete and we're already down to a 50% survival rate. Directly behind the entrance, I'll add this giant skull that I built for guests to go through. It's the perfect mascot for the theme park, and it's a pretty sick way for guests to start their journey into the actual park. Now let's begin work on building our first ride, a jump track roller coaster. I started by taking these round green bricks to create supports for the roller coaster. Then I grabbed a ton of yellow track pieces in different shapes to create hills, curves, spirals, and of course, jumps. I placed on the beginning of the ride, which drops into a turn and then goes straight into an uphill climb, which every good roller coaster starts with. The uphill section leads into a short drop, then a 180-degree turn, before ending in one last drop, which I nicknamed the Forever Nap. The final roller coaster build is actually massive and takes up the entire right side of the park, but the coaster isn't complete yet since it can't move on its own. So let's use this chain and attach it to the uphill section at the beginning of the track. Then I can use this motor and battery pack to power the chain. Now when I turn it on, the ride is able to move entirely on its own. Underneath the jump, let's build a pool to catch falling guests, and then fill it up with crocodiles. With the path built and stairs in place, our first group of Daredevil guests can finally hop on. And it doesn't look like these guys will be going on another ride anytime soon. Good thing we have a whole team of nurses and doctors on standby. They can load the 2.5 guests up on gurneys, but they'll need a hospital to take them to, so let's build that next. I designed a simple hospital bed and made a bunch to place down on the floor. I also made a nurse's station with all the essentials as well as IV poles to place next to the beds. With the floor of the hospital complete, our first park guests can be wheeled in for treatment. Make sure to subscribe and like the video so you don't end up in here. Let's finish it off by building the walls, adding a roof, and placing a red cross on top to signify that it's a medical center. With the hospital complete, it's time to move on to the next attraction, water slides. We'll need one of those stair towers you see at water parks, so let's build a red and white central column to place the slides on, then add a set of stairs for park guests to use. LEGO has made 3 different types of slide pieces, and I used all of them to create the first slide, which starts with a steep drop and ends with a few 180 and 90-degree turns. The guest chat is going to give the ride a preliminary test. That doesn't seem too dangerous, but just wait until I finish all 3. I built a bridge to connect to the central tower so I can add this corkscrew slide that goes around and around and around. The final slide is this straight drop, which will let guests gather some serious speed. With the 3 slides built, it's time to work on the pools. For the first slide, I built a long skinny pool for it to end in, and then a square pool with tall walls for the corkscrew slide. I'll use tan plates to fill in the grass area with sand to make it more beachy, and make a quicksand pit for unsuspecting guests to get swallowed up by. Now I can fill in the big peaceful pool with water, and then infest it with killer sharks. There's literally a 0% chance that Chad makes it across the water without being eaten alive. If the straight drop wasn't dangerous enough, let's eliminate the pool completely and replace it with a bed of spikes. I'll fill up the final pool, but the catch with this slide is that there's no exit and the walls are too high, so even the best swimmers will never make it out. Let's finish off the water park area by adding an umbrella, lounge chairs, and a palm tree. I think this area turned out looking really nice, even though the rides were made with 0 concern for safety, which means the hospital is starting to fill up. So let's work on filling up the beds even more by building the next ride, Battle Bumper Cars, situated dead center in the theme park. I'll start by constructing the floor of the bumper car arena, and then build up the towers to support the roof above. Then I'll add in walls around the arena since safety is my #1 concern. I built this prototype of the bumper cars, but it looks pretty plain and boring. So let's paint it and make a red, green, yellow, and blue one. Now those look a lot better. Bumper cars are already known for giving guests whiplash, but I want to make them even more dangerous. I'll give the yellow bumper car a forklift, the green car a giant saw, the red car a flamethrower, and the blue car a pair of spears. This lineup of weaponized bumper cars looks way more deadly and fits in seamlessly with the rest of Peril Park.
Round 1, fight!
The hospital is quickly approaching maximum capacity, and we still have 5 more rides to construct. Before moving on, let's build a roof to place on top of the bumper car arena to give it a more complete look. And for the final touch, I'll add some colorful lights into the roof to attract the next victims. Guests. With the bumper cars complete, I can use the open space next door for our next ride. I want to build one of those tower drop rides that always feel like they're going to slam straight into the ground. I'll use these yellow beam pieces, which can be connected together using Technic axles to form the main structure. With the beams all in place, we now have the centerpiece for the ride done. I'll add a walkway around the tower and then fence in the area directly surrounding it, for safety. Then I built the carriage that goes around the tower. And of course, in a place like Peril Park, there aren't any seatbelts or harnesses on the chairs. It fits perfectly onto the tower, so now we can cap it off at the top. It actually looks really sick once it's all put together, so let's see if it works. That was incredibly fast. Now let's get some guests on board for the real test. That's gotta be a 10% chance of survival at best. Even if they don't get launched off, their spines are gonna look like they were put through a hydraulic press. In hindsight, I probably should have built a bigger hospital and hired some more staff. The next ride I want to make is a chair swing. I'll use this circular plate and place 8 bricks with connections in the front to add plates on. This ends up making a long, octagon-shaped column. The inner workings of it look pretty messy, but trust me, it works. I used up all the chair seats on the last ride, so guests will just have to hang on for dear life. Now I can attach the swings to the center column. Inside the white box is a gear mechanism that allows the column to spin, which in turn spins the swing. But of course, I'm going to motorize the ride to ensure maximum speed. I built 2 sets of stairs leading up to the ride so guests can load up on either side. I'm hoping I left enough space between the swing and the tower drop because this ride has enough hazards already. Well, looks like it was a little too close after all. Against all odds, one person made it out uninjured.
Michael, don't leave me here!
But we can't say the same for everyone else. I guess we can send them to the overcrowded hospital just in case there's any hope for survival. The theme park is starting to fill up, but we still have a few smaller attractions to build before the last big coaster. A lot of theme parks have slingshot rides, so I'm going to build a killer version of that next to the skull. I'll use 6 of these gray beams to create the supports for the slingshot. I built a red target where guests will hopefully end up. I'm going to use several of these rubber bands and connect them together to make one long piece. Now with the rubber band in place, it's time for a guest to try it out. Looks like Grandpa is feeling brave. He got delivered straight to the hospital. In front of the slingshot, let's construct a carnival game area with a bit of added risk. I want to include one of those spinning knife games, so let's build a target for it. I made a box to house the motor that will make it spin, and filled in the entire game area with a nice checkered pattern. I'll place this rack of knives next to it, and then guests can decide who gets to throw and who gets to be on the wheel. It looks like this guy's got a pretty deadly aim. In the middle, I'll make one of those ball toss games. These barrel pieces will be perfect for it. There's even a top row for prizes, but instead of using a boring ball, I'll swap it out for a grenade. As long as the guests don't hold it for too long, they should be safe. I'll finish off the stand by adding a roof with colorful lights on it. In the final spot, I'm going to build a dunk tank. I'll use these curved pieces to create the tank, and this mechanism will allow guests to get dunked. Instead of cold water, guests will get dunked into boiling hot water. Now they can take turns trying to dunk each other. Yeah, that's definitely gonna leave a mark. Now our hospital is so full that injured guests are just lucky to get a spot on the floor. Before we build the final, most deadly ride, let's build a food court area. I'll start by building a burger stand. Inside, I'll place down a soda machine, grill, and prep station. The cook has been leaving the patties out a little too long, so they've started turning green. After placing down the walls of the stand, I built the top half of a burger to go on top, which actually looks pretty tasty. Guests are definitely going to get food poisoning though. Next to the burger stand, I'll build a soda stand that serves some mysterious green drinks. I'll use these clear bricks to make ice on top and then finish it off with a giant straw. But it looks like rats have started making a nice home in the drink stand. With all the danger in the park, I'll build the one safe area for guests, the bathroom. I'll place down a sink and toilet, which guests can sit on to seek some shelter. With the walls in place and the roof on top, all that's left is to add my favorite detail, the massive toilet. I'll finish off the area by adding in some tables and benches. If guests have made it this far, they deserve a place to relax. We only have one open area left in the park, so let's make a ride that guarantees a 0% survival rate. Like the first ride, this roller coaster is going to come to an abrupt end. But this time, I'm going to build a giant volcano at the bottom of the track for the cars to fly into. This volcano is looking a bit barren, so let's add these orange slope pieces to the sides of the mountain to give it a nice flowing lava look. I placed lights inside the volcano's opening to give it a fiery look inside. Then I layered some orange pieces over the lights to give it a softer volcanic glow. All that's left to get this coaster moving is to motorize it by adding in a chain and then using these custom supports to feed the chain through. Along the side of the track, I laid out a queue line for guests to wait in and added stairs up to a loading platform. And now it's time for this brave group of guests to embark on the last ride of their lives. It's a good thing they won't be coming back from this ride because the hospital is bursting with patients at this point. For one final detail, let's use some dry ice inside the volcano to make it look like the whole thing is about to erupt. I gotta say, it looks pretty threatening. With the last roller coaster finished, all that's left to do is add finishing touches to the rest of the park. I added bushes, lampposts, trash cans, and a volcanic viewing area, which might be a little too close for comfort. We'll need to place down Peril Park's mascots and some more minifigures since all of our original guests are either in the hospital or no longer with us. And with that, our last theme park is complete. I wish I could visit a theme park like this, although I don't know if I'd be lucky enough to survive. All 4 of the theme parks turned out looking really epic, and we were able to fit in so many different rides. Let me know which theme park was your favorite down below in the comments, and what type of park I should build next. Thanks so much for watching, and stay awesome.